A widow in post-war Rome could feed her 3 children for an entire week on what we spend on a single family meal at Pizza Express, not through deprivation, but through knowledge that modern families have completely lost. These weren't just cheap meals, they were masterpieces of efficiency that took less time than heating a ready meal. Number 13 uses nothing but bread, oil, and garlic, yet creates something so delicious that your children will choose it over expensive alternatives. Number 5 transforms leftover pasta into tomorrow's complete dinner using ingredients already in your cupboard. Here's what supermarket chains don't want you to realize. The most nourishing, satisfying meals cost almost nothing to make and take minutes to prepare. Your ancestors knew this. They raised healthy families on budgets that would terrify modern parents. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button, because these forgotten techniques could save your family thousands. Let's count down 15 Italian dinners that prove expensive food is the biggest lie we've been sold. Number 15. Pane a pomodoro, bread and tomato. In the crowded docks of 1940s Naples, workers would gather at midday, unwrapping simple parcels of food that cost just 2 lire total. What they ate wasn't a compromise, it was a celebration of flavor that modern Italians still consider a delicacy. The method is deceptively simple. Take day-old bread, never waste yesterday's loaf, and rub it vigorously with a cut clove of garlic. The rough texture of the bread acts like a grater, infusing the surface with intense flavor. Drizzle generously with olive oil, then top with ripe tomato crushed between your fingers and a pinch of flaky sea salt. The magic happens when the tomato juices soak into the bread, creating a perfect balance of softness and structure. The garlic provides not just flavor, but antibacterial properties, something dock workers needed in the days before refrigeration. The olive oil delivers the satiating fat that keeps hunger at bay for hours. Today, we pay £4 for artisanal bruschetta at trendy cafes, forgetting that we're essentially buying the same peasant dish with fancy presentation. We've been convinced that simplicity equals inferiority, when the opposite is true. Close your eyes and imagine the aroma of garlic-infused bread, the burst of sweet acidic tomato juice, and the satisfying crunch that gives way to that perfect soft middle. That's not poverty, that's perfection. Number 14. Pasta e fagioli, pasta and beans. In the rolling hills of Tuscany, large families with little money performed magic in their kitchens every night. 1 can of cannellini beans could stretch to feed 8 hungry mouths, transforming humble ingredients into a meal that sustained generations. The technique is a masterclass in economy. Boil pasta directly in the liquid from canned beans. This starchy water becomes the foundation of a silky sauce. Add the beans themselves, finish with a drizzle of olive oil and generous crack of black pepper, and you've created something remarkable. In the 1950s, this entire meal cost approximately 15 lire. Today, the modern equivalent feeds a family of 4 for under £1.50, yet delivers more nutrition than meals costing 10 times as much. The true genius lies in the nutritional profile. Individually, pasta and beans are incomplete proteins. Combined, they create all 9 essential amino acids, the same complete protein profile found in expensive meat. Add the fiber and sustained energy release, and you understand why Italian families thrived on what outsiders mistook for deprivation. Yet walk into any Italian restaurant and you'll find this same dish on the menu for £12. They've convinced us that simplicity means inferiority, that peasant food needs elevation. The truth? These dishes were already perfect. Number 13. Aglio e olio, garlic and oil. In the narrow apartments of mid-century Rome, night shift workers would return home at midnight, hungry but unwilling to wake the household. In cramped boarding house kitchens, they created what might be the most perfect expression of Italian minimalism. The method requires just pasta water, thinly sliced garlic, good olive oil, and a pinch of red pepper flakes. If you were fortunate, perhaps a sprinkle of parsley from the windowsill pot. The secret lies not in the ingredients, but in the technique. The pasta water, liquid gold in Italian cooking, contains starch that emulsifies with oil to create a silky sauce that clings to every strand. The garlic must warm slowly, infusing the oil without browning, which would create bitterness. We've been conditioned to believe good food requires expensive ingredients and complex techniques. Food magazines sell us 20-ingredient recipes that take hours to prepare. Yet, this midnight meal of Roman workers delivers more satisfaction than most restaurant dishes. Close your eyes and hear the gentle sizzle of garlic hitting warm oil. Smell the perfume rising from the pot. Feel the steam warming your face as you stir. This isn't deprivation cuisine, this is food at its most honest. Number 12, Papa al Pomodoro Tomato Bread Soup. In the narrow streets of Florence, mothers faced a daily challenge: how to feed large families with whatever was available. Their ingenious solution was to transform yesterday's stale bread and summer's abundant tomatoes into a dish children still request as adults. The method celebrates the principle of waste elimination. Stale bread, never thrown away, is soaked in simple tomato broth, stirred until it breaks down into a creamy consistency, then finished with torn basil leaves from the garden. Nothing is discarded, nothing is wasted. Yesterday's necessity becomes today's comfort. The alchemy that transforms hard bread into velvety soup is the same that turned poverty into prosperity over generations. Today, upscale restaurants serve this same dish as rustic Italian cuisine for £8 per bowl. They've repackaged necessity as novelty, selling back to us what our great-grandparents knew instinctively. The texture tells the story, smooth yet substantial, warm and enveloping, tasting simultaneously of summer sunshine and childhood security. It's a dish that feels like coming home. Here's where things get clever. The meals so far have used what was already in the cupboard, but Italian mothers knew that one smart shopping trip could provide ingredients for a week of different dinners. The next entries show how a single purchase could transform into multiple meals. Number 11. Cacio e pepe, cheese and pepper. Roman shepherds, spending days in the hills, carried only what was essential: dried pasta, aged pecorino cheese that wouldn't spoil, and black peppercorns. From these three humble ingredients, they created what modern chefs spend years trying to perfect. The technique seems simple, but requires perfect understanding of temperature and timing. Pasta water, at precisely the right heat and starch content, combines with grated cheese to create a creamy sauce without a drop of cream. Black pepper, toasted to release its essential oils, provides complexity that expensive spice blends can't match. The genius lies in the simplicity: 3 ingredients, 5 minutes of work, and restaurant-quality results. Yet modern families buy jarred Alfredo sauce for more money and infinitely inferior taste. We've been trained to distrust simplicity, to believe that good food requires complexity. Watch the alchemy as starchy water and aged cheese combine to create a silky emulsion. This isn't science, it's inherited wisdom, passed through generations who understood that luxury comes from knowledge, not expense. Number 10. Pasta alla puttanesca, quick tomato sauce. In the bustling neighborhoods of Naples, working women needed to prepare dinner quickly between long shifts. Their solution was a sauce so fast and flavorful it became legendary. The method relies on pantry staples: canned tomatoes, garlic, olives, capers, and perhaps a few anchovies if they were available. Every ingredient delivers maximum flavor impact for minimum cost. The speed factor is crucial. The sauce cooks in exactly the time it takes pasta to boil, meaning dinner is ready in a synchronized 8 minutes. In the 1960s, this entire meal cost approximately 25 lira and fed 4 people comfortably. The flavor intensity comes from the perfect balance of salt, acid, and umami, creating satisfaction that lasts hours and preventing the need for expensive snacking later. We've been taught that proper cooking takes time, that shortcuts produce inferior results. Yet this sauce, born of necessity, delivers more complexity than sauces that simmer all day. The lesson? Sometimes constraints create perfection. Number 9. Pasta e patate, pasta and potatoes. Southern Italian families knew something nutritionists would later confirm. Combining two starches creates a uniquely satisfying meal that costs almost nothing to produce. The method breaks conventional cooking rules. Potatoes are cooked in minimal water until they begin falling apart. Short pasta is added to the same pot, absorbing the starchy potato water and creating a naturally creamy sauce. A final drizzle of olive oil adds the fat necessary for vitamin absorption. The nutritional wisdom is remarkable. Potatoes provide vitamin C that pasta lacks. Pasta provides energy that sustains physical labor. Together, they prevented scurvy and malnutrition in communities that couldn't afford fresh fruit year-round. Modern dietary advice would condemn this double carbohydrate approach. We've been taught that carbs are villains, that healthy eating requires expensive proteins and superfoods. Yet Italian families thrived on precisely this combination for generations. The comfort factor cannot be overstated. The creamy texture, the warming effect in cold weather, the satisfied feeling that prevents hunger for hours. This isn't deprivation cooking, it's intelligent cooking. Number 8. Ribollita, reheated soup. Tuscan farm workers' wives created perhaps the most brilliant cooking system ever devised. Sunday's vegetable soup wasn't just Sunday's dinner, it was the foundation for the entire week's meals, each day better than the last. The evolution is genius. Day 1 brings simple vegetable soup. Day 2, leftover bread is added, thickening the broth. Day 3, beans join the mixture, adding protein. Each day, the flavors deepen and transform, creating what feels like an entirely new dish. This waste philosophy shaped generations. Nothing was discarded. Everything was incorporated. Today, we throw away leftovers that Italian families would transform into new creations. We buy fresh ingredients daily while they understood that flavors improve with time. The magic happens in the pot. Yesterday's soup doesn't just reheat, it becomes today's completely different experience. The beans break down, creating creaminess. The bread dissolves, adding body. The vegetables surrender their last nutrients into the broth. This isn't leftovers, it's planned evolution, a single meal designed to transform throughout the week. Notice how none of these meals required special equipment or exotic ingredients. Italian mothers understood that technique mattered more than tools. A wooden spoon, a single pot, and knowledge passed down through generations. The next entries show how this wisdom created meals that modern chefs struggle to replicate. Number 7. Pasta alla carbonara, egg and cheese pasta. Before Rome became a tourist destination, its charcoal workers needed substantial breakfast before long days of physical labor. Their solution was a brilliant combination of eggs, cheese, and whatever pork scraps were available, usually guanciale or pancetta. The technique demands perfect timing. Hot pasta must cool just enough that raw eggs don't scramble when added, yet remain hot enough to create a creamy sauce. This 30-second window separates perfection from disaster, demonstrating the precision hidden within simple Italian cooking. Modern restaurants have corrupted this dish beyond recognition, adding cream, peas, chicken, destroying the original perfection that required nothing but 4 ingredients and perfect technique. The revelation comes with the first bite, how 3 humble ingredients transform into something worthy of the finest restaurants. The silky coating on each strand of pasta, the richness that satisfies deeply, the flavor complexity that seems impossible from so few components. This isn't complicated cooking. It's cooking that understands that perfection comes from respecting ingredients and mastering techniques. Number 6. Minestrone della nonna, grandmother's vegetable soup. In every Italian region, grandmothers performed weekly kitchen magic, transforming whatever vegetables were wilting in the garden into sustenance that could feed extended families. The method begins with sofrito, the aromatic base of diced onion, carrot, and celery that forms the foundation of countless Italian dishes. Seasonal vegetables join the pot in careful sequence, ensuring nothing overcooks. Pasta or rice provides substance, and the secret ingredient, a saved Parmesan rind, infuses the broth with umami depth. The seasonal wisdom is profound. Spring minestrone featured tender artichokes and young peas. Winter versions contained hearty cabbage and beans. Each season provided exactly what bodies needed for that climate, always using what was cheapest and most abundant. Nutritionally, this single pot delivered everything a growing family required. Vegetables for vitamins, grains for energy, protein from the cheese, and the essential fats needed for absorption. Modern nutritionists would charge consulting fees to create meal plans that these grandmothers intuited. The family ritual centered around the pot that simmered all day, bringing scattered family members home with its aroma. This wasn't just food, it was connection, community, and continuity across generations. Number 5. Pasta frittata, leftover pasta omelette. Italian mothers elevated leftover management to an art form, and nowhere is this more evident than in their transformation of yesterday's pasta into today's completely new meal. The method is brilliance in simplicity. Leftover pasta, any kind with whatever sauce it had, is mixed with beaten eggs and perhaps a handful of grated cheese. This mixture is cooked slowly in olive oil, creating a thick omelette with a crispy bottom and creamy interior. The economic genius cannot be overstated. One meal becomes two, nothing is wasted, and children actually prefer the transformation to the original, where modern parents struggle with refrigerator containers of uneaten pasta. Italian mothers created anticipated traditions. The texture surprise delights first-time eaters, the crispy exterior giving way to creamy center, familiar flavors presented in new form. It's the perfect solution for families with picky eaters and tight budgets. Modern food waste statistics would horrify these practical women. They understood that yesterday's dinner wasn't leftovers, it was tomorrow's ingredients, waiting for transformation. Number 4. Acqua cotta, cooked water. Perhaps no dish better illustrates Italian ingenuity than acqua cotta, literally cooked water. A Tuscan shepherd's solution to having almost nothing to eat while tending flocks far from home. The method begins with the most basic ingredient, water. Added to this, a tomato if available, wild onion, foraged herbs, and a stale bread crust carried from home. The water simmers, extracting flavor from minimal ingredients. The bread thickens the broth, and if extremely fortunate, an egg might be cracked into the hot liquid, creating a complete meal. This is true poverty cuisine, a dish created when nothing else was available. Yet through technique and understanding of flavor, even water becomes sustaining, nourishing, and remarkably delicious. The modern revelation comes in the first spoonful, how the simplest ingredients create complex, satisfying flavors through nothing but time and knowledge. The transformation from clear broth to substantial meal happens before your eyes, a kind of culinary alchemy. This isn't a recipe of compromise, it's a masterclass in extracting maximum flavor and nutrition from minimum ingredients, a lesson more valuable today than ever before. Here's what separates Italian poverty cooking from modern budget meals. These weren't compromises or sacrifices, they were celebrations of what was available. Italian families didn't eat cheap food, they ate clever food. The final entries prove that the best meals often cost the least. Number 3. Pasta e ceci, pasta and chickpeas. In the crowded apartments of mid-century Rome, families performed weekly rituals that stretched minimal ingredients into maximum nutrition. Dried chickpeas soaked overnight, combined with pasta scraps to create one of the most nutritionally complete meals possible. The method demonstrates perfect understanding of legume cookery. Chickpeas simmer until creamy, then pasta cooks in the same flavorful liquid. A branch of rosemary infuses everything with aromatic complexity. The single pot produces a meal with the perfect balance of textures: tender chickpeas, al dente pasta, and silky broth. The protein wisdom here is remarkable. Long before nutritional science confirmed it, Italian families knew that chickpeas and wheat together create a complete amino acid profile, providing all essential proteins without expensive meat. In the 1950s, this entire meal cost approximately 10 lire, yet provided protein equivalent to meals costing 10 times as much. Modern families spend fortunes on protein supplements and meat alternatives that don't deliver the same complete nutrition as this simple pot. The comfort memory lingers long after: the smell of rosemary, the creamy texture, the satisfied fullness that lasts for hours. This isn't food of necessity, it's food of profound nutritional intelligence. Number 2. Zuppa di pane, bread soup. Tuscan families elevated frugality to an art form with this transformative dish that turned week-old bread, far too hard to eat normally, into the centerpiece of substantial evening meals. The method layers stale bread with simple vegetables and broth, allowing everything to meld together in a low oven until it unifies into something entirely new. The bread doesn't merely absorb the liquid, it becomes one with it, creating a texture impossible to achieve with fresh ingredients. The waste elimination philosophy is clear. Stale bread isn't a throwaway item, but a star ingredient with unique properties. Modern households discard bread at the first sign of staleness, while Italian families anticipated this stage as an opportunity for transformation. Today's restaurants have rediscovered this technique, calling it bread pudding or panade, and charging premium prices for what was essentially a method of using every last crumb. The alchemy happens in the oven. Discarded bread becomes the foundation of a meal so satisfying that families would save bread specifically for this purpose. This isn't making do with less, it's understanding the unique properties of ingredients at every stage of their existence. Number 1. Pasta in bianco, white pasta. The simplest meal in the Italian repertoire is often the first thing children learn to make independently. A dish so basic it barely qualifies as a recipe, yet delivers satisfaction that complex meals often fail to provide. The method couldn't be simpler. Pasta cooked al dente, dressed with butter or olive oil, topped with grated Parmesan cheese and freshly ground black pepper. No sauce, no additional ingredients, nothing to distract from the perfect harmony of these 4 components. This perfect simplicity represents everything Italian cooking celebrates. Quality ingredients treated with respect create extraordinary results without complexity or expense. The pasta must have texture, the cheese must be properly aged, the pepper freshly ground. But beyond these simple requirements, success comes from restraint rather than addition. There's profound wisdom here. Sometimes the best meal is the simplest one, made with attention and love. Modern cooking has convinced us that more ingredients mean more flavor, that complexity equals quality. Italian families have always known the opposite is true. In this single dish lies the entire philosophy of Italian cuisine. Respect your ingredients, master your techniques, and never complicate what doesn't need complication. Here's my challenge for you. Pick 3 of these meals and try them this week. The aglio e olio, the pane e pomodoro, the pasta in bianco that your great-grandmother would recognize. Then come back and tell me what happened. Tell me if your children chose these over expensive alternatives. Tell me if your grocery bill dropped while your family's satisfaction increased. Share which meal you're going to try in the comments. I want to know if the cacio e pepe gets more love than the pasta frittata. I want to see if anyone else's grandmother made minestrone that simmered all day. I've tried them all. My family now requests these simple meals over expensive takeaways, and I haven't spent more than £3 feeding 4 people in months. These meals didn't disappear because they weren't good enough. They were replaced by an industry that profits from our helplessness in the kitchen. Your Italian ancestors weren't poor. They were brilliant. They understood that the best food comes from knowledge, not money. Now you know what they knew. The only question is what you're going to do about it.